And we are here, folks. The second day of the 2023 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships at Bob Deans Field in beautiful Ōtautahi, Christchurch. We have an exciting quarterfinal match, having finally progressed out of pool play into our championship bracket. My name, as always, is Blair Monroe.
And I'm still Kelsey Bielik.
Now, Kelsey, what a privilege it is to be here with you, as it always is. I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet to be here, not only with great company in the commentary box, but also here to watch some fantastic Ultimate. Tell us a little bit about these teams as our team on the right-hand side of the screen, Credo, is about to come out on defense.
Well, shucks, Blair. First of all, a privilege to be here with the voice of New Zealand Ultimate himself, Blair Monroe. Now, we've got Credo with the disc, Netherlands Young winding up. We just saw them play a hard-fought match against Marvelous DC. Boat from Wellington. They went down, especially in the second half. What I do expect to see with this team, though, is that they started off so strong. They really showed Marvelous DC that they were firing in the first half, and that's something that I really hope to see now. They came off hot off the training, the warm-up. They had a strong cheer, and we know that they're a resilient and mentally strong team. I hope to see that in the beginning.
Immediate deep cut from Rutan. There's a reason he's one of the best. Just best to ever do it. Nice and deep. Puts a blade shot up for a one-handed grab from Hamish Ford to put Old Boys on the board early.
You know, I said I hope Credo come off firing, and we may get to see that the next point, but wow, Old Boys Sports Club really coming out and showing us how it's done. In
the immortal words of Bruce Forsyth, what's on the board, Mr. Ford? The answer is you, Hamish. 1 point up over Credo from Christchurch. Great work there.
Yeah, just beautiful connections. Such surety in the throws. I really enjoy the step out, but then the relatively high release, outside in forehand, sneaking around just into space for the receiver. What a great point. Meanwhile, Old Boys Sports Club, we did get to see them play a little bit in pool play. It was a great matchup. I think I was really impressed at the depth of the team, the upcoming talent. They've really bonded and gelled. I think you were talking a little bit about this. Maybe you can offer some more insight, Blair, into their progression and growth as a club.
Yeah, one of the biggest privileges for me this year, being relatively central North Island based, is that I've had the opportunity to go up to a couple of the scrimmage days that have been held in Auckland. I've seen them perform at Tamaki Throwdown, and in my opinion, Old Boys Sports Club, even though their roster's remaining relatively unchanged, their strength as a team is just going up and up and up. They are more dominant, more cohesive than I've ever seen them. And I've been watching Ultimate for a few years now at the very least. So it's going to be really good to see. I think Credo looking to push towards that fast sideline, so we might be looking to have a handler-initiated play to work the disc up first.
Yeah, it looks like they're setting a side stack. Now, interesting point with the conditions. Wind has changed over the course of the day. Now we're feeling a strong crosswind blowing towards us. That's blowing towards the camera, meaning that for the first time in this tournament, we're sitting on the low side. Fraser with the disc. Looking to Teo Lenartz. And connecting easily to Nauman in the end zone. I'm so happy I called it. Seeing that come true here, Credo with their own clean offense to respond.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Yes, the defense is going to dictate the winner, but the important thing is that when the teams are given an opportunity on offense, that they don't waste them. We've seen 2 scores pretty cleanly in that front corner on the right-hand end zone. Both offensive holds so far, both clean offensive holds as well. Just really good to see Campbell Nauman again making a great aggressive cut to initiate that play. I think we had McKenzie for Credo trying to start things off, ended up getting covered a little too closely, had to bail out. We had Nauman on that second option, pushed up to Fraser, to Taylor Arts, and then somehow leapfrogged the whole play to be there for the score at the end. The score is currently 1-1.
Yeah, open side, boom, 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 just snaking right down the field.
And as we've mentioned in previous games, Kelsey, the big thing about those string of open side plays is that it means the players in the downfield are doing most of the work. They're creating cuts that allow those easy throws from the handler set.
Also, shout out just a brief clip of volunteers who are helping to make this tournament happen, sitting there in the bleachers and also surrounded by them. Big shout out for everyone involved, whether behind the screens, behind the scenes, directing the tournament. There's a lot of work behind the scenes pulling this together and making it happen. So shout out to all of that as well.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, that means we've had 3 back-to-back pulls that have all been bricked. Certainly the last 2 have, which means that the wind is coming a little bit towards the near side of your screen or the bottom side of your screen. Players are yet to adapt to that, I think.
It's different. It's the first time that's happened the entire tournament, so also potentially players adapting regardless of what field you're on. It's the same conditions. The disc goes up, and it's floating. Players beneath it.
Ford was looking for Mead, but it's going to be Lewis who comes down with it. Taylor Nartz to pick up with a no pivot backhand. Finds his wife, Kat Taylor Nartz, or I suppose I should say Kat Taylor Nartz's husband found Kat Taylor Nartz on that near sideline. Working with McIntosh to find McGuinness on the far sideline as Old Boys are scrambling to get into position.
Oh, what a break to Taylor Nartz. Looking, that's the open side. Forcing downwind now, forcing backhand back to Taylor Nartz. And they're really capitalizing on the open side here.
Great aggressive defense. A defense there from Camille Leung.
Seeing a hard no around from Leung. She lets it off there, but it looks like Old Boys really trying to stop the breaks, those round throws as much as possible, offering the insides.
Jordan Tan was doing a great job covering that deep space, and that bait came through, maybe took his attention away for a second. It's gonna be a break opportunity there for Credo. So answering Old Boys' first uncontested score of the game with a score of their own, and then generating a turn and managing to convert it for the score.
Again, that's a really good point. That's big for Credo. The first break of the game.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that might actually be Jack Lewis bookends there. He managed to come up. We're seeing that first fake there. There's the cut. It is. It's going to be. Oh, no. It was McIntosh for the score, I think. It was.
Yes.
Yeah, looks like Lewis with a great bait cut, though, to distract the defense.
Taylor Nartz just fighting to find options and then sneaks it back onto the open side. McIntosh with a one-handed cleanup catch.
Natural athlete.
Old Boys now with a chance to respond when picking up. It'll be interesting to see if some creative zoney defenses come out. Now, when Credo was playing zone against Marvelous DC, while it did slow down a few of their passes, once Marvelous DC got into the swing of things, the zone really wasn't as effective in shutting them down. That said, new team, new conditions, zone could be a good idea, and just testing the waters and seeing if it changes anything. Nonetheless, Old Boys off to the races with some great handler movements.
Lillian Parker trying to get the disc to Camille Leung. It's going to be Ing on the near sideline, marked by far.
Relatively flat mark from Credo.
Great work by Logan to slip in front of Grace Douglas. The outside shot for Rutan. And Air Jordan there to clean up.
What a great point. I also want to shout out Douglas had such a great bid on defense. She really went for that defensive play. She missed it. She ran a bit too far. So we'll see Ing with the disc. She's engaging the reset, sees that open option, and here Douglas misses it and comes around, just leaving the break side fully open. Now,
I do want to draw attention to that as well. Becky Farr, head on a swivel. Her pursuit of Eunice Ing as she tracked into that deep space, it allowed her that extra half second to clog the lane in front of Alice Logan. So maybe there was that little bit of hesitation on the throw. Either way, Rutan went up for it, and Air Jordan was there right behind him to secure it.
A great display of teamwork. Also, just showing the importance of backing up your teammates. Even if a throw was meant for one player, it could have been for both of them there. But the importance of backing up your teammates. Being in position to either continue a great catch if it's just outside the end zone and being that person to make it a point, or if the disc floats too far, whatever happens, if it gets bobbled up by the defense and not caught, that you're there to help just play the sweep up, and we've got a team of clean players here willing to sweep up after each other.
And so after the great pull by Sarah Jessup, it's going to be Mance Douglas and Tiang to initiate, but they managed to get one through to Tony Clark, and Becky Farr is not going to be able to pick up the line drive. So
I love that option, though. It was a great cut, great look. I think just holstering it for another second could have been all that was needed for her to run onto that and make it a point.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where the lines, both of those, both the handler and the cutter had chosen were great. It's just that little timing, that miscommunication to give Old Boys an opportunity.
Oh, double cut out of the stack there, which is a bit problematic, just showing a bit of miscommunication on offense.
And so instead of either Hammond or Jessup getting the disc, goes back and getting worked by the handlers. A pick is called as Lee releases to Hahoff on the near sideline.
So almost all the cuts that we're seeing have been double cuts coming out of the stack, and while that can be beneficial in moving defense, creating space, it seems like they're happening out of miscommunication or lack of awareness, where the other people are congesting space, just leading to more bodies in the same space and making it more likely to cause a pick. Absolutely.
If it's something intentional that the team has practiced, that's one thing, but if it's just based on miscommunication, we're seeing another pick happen. If it's happening based on miscommunication, it's creating an opportunity where those two cuts cross over, that you have two players and two defenders who are all in space that's being occupied. And it might be great, valuable throwing space, but it can't be used when all those players are present. Now, Kelsey, we've had the second pick back-to-back called in just a couple of possessions. What exactly, for those watching at home, is a pick?
Well, ultimate Frisbee as a non-contact sport, it's important to remember. I'm sorry, I'm just caught up in the excitement here. The cut goes up, but it floats out of bounds. The wind just knocks it a bit too far. So ultimate Frisbee is a non-contact sport. It's important to respect the space. If you're making a cut, creating movement on offense, the defender needs to be able to freely follow you. And if that space is impeded by any other bodies, whether offensive or defensive players, you're entitled to call a pick, just highlighting that you shouldn't have to hit or move through other players in order to effectively play defense.
What a grab by Mance there. Wong trying to fake that near sideline, goes around, find Mance again. Douglas there as an option. He's engaged now. Threading through, he's tracked tight by Blake Holloway. Trying to bait in front of that disc. It's Far on a very circular slowdown. Marked by Shen.
Tight throws here because of we're seeing some really strong match defense. Really a lot of precision on the throws, a lot of room for error. You know, if it's slightly misthrown, it could create mistakes, but they're going right to the breadbasket of each of the players. Unfortunately, there's an injury on the field. We're pushing later into the day, so there's a chance it could be a cramp, although it looks like Tian's indicating that there may have been contact.
Either contact or possibly a trip and landed heavily on her chest. Can leave you winded. Even really fit athletes, that impact can be enough to shake the lungs out of you. Just an interesting note as well, a reminder for those watching at home. Ultimate, leg-wise, it's almost like a game of netball. Probably a poor comparison, but I would put our athletes comfortably up against the Silver Ferns on a good day. Players establish a pivot foot. Now, it's important that when players receive the disc, they stay or they slow down as quickly as possible without changing direction. We are seeing a lot of those changes in direction from Credo. It would be nice for them to tidy that up a little bit. As opposed to sneaking away with a little bit of advantage by being a bit more flexible with the rules.
High stall, so the hut goes up. Clark just trying to clear it out of the space. He fires it into the end zone. You know, that's living on a prayer there, but it's snuck down by Old Boys. I wanted to also comment on Old Boys' defense, which I really think generated that turnover. Such strong shutdown defense. Now Credo looking to respond with similar pressure.
It's going to be Lee working with Shen on the near sideline, marked by Far. Far not really taking a shade either side. She's more worried about shutting down that downfield space as the threat. Now as Shen moves into that handler space to be an option, Far's given the space to just relax off a little bit. She's worried more about shutting down consecutive or subsequent threats. The disc is going back and forth between Lee and Hammond.
You know, one thing, Blair, that we've seen in previous games that I'd really like to see more from Old Boys, there's one option happening here. It's more deep looks. They're really keeping the disc close, and I don't think that's because of Credo defense, although that's an excellent D by Wong.
What
he
a
just
huge
gets a hand
touch
in that space. I just want to see more movement of the whole field. I want to see those deep options as well as those unders. They're really moving it in that under space, relying on the handlers, but I'd like to see more deep cuts coming out. Maybe if there's another turnover, it's up to Old Boys to get that turnover and hopefully prove me right. Follow my advice as I always love. Tiong with the disc now. Can Credo convert? What a
laser show! What a laser show! Straight through to Tony Clark for the score to give Credo another point. Yeah, no, absolutely right, Kelsey, and we saw that previously. Long cuts, even though it seems an ungratifying job to be parked up in the deep space, constantly trying to test the defense, create and exploit holes, just to allow your handlers to keep working the disc. I think we've seen the depth of throws on this Old Boys side. I mean, they've got great handlers, Lee, Hammond, Harhoff, Ford, Jessup as well, who really get involved in that handler space. Parker is another example. When those discs in the hands of those confident throwers, they can really put them deep. I think with the wind and noticing that we've had a lot of pulls have come out of bounds, they're still struggling to adjust, so they're probably not willing to take risks on those longer options just yet. Knowing that their short game is able to keep them competitive, they're probably going to wait a little bit, start to feel things out, and then once they've got a good read on the wind, that's when we're going to start seeing some of those long shots getting uncorked. That's my prediction anyway.
Interesting to see also those recaps there. Just again, the pressure from Credo on Old Boys leading to the turnover, and then that slicey point that Tiong puts through to the break side. We've got Old Boys on offense. Can they stretch the field, provide those options to the handlers, really create that dynamic space for them? They're off to the races. We're seeing a lot of quick give-goes. Now becoming more stagnant as they're trying to find options, and Credo defense is clamping down.
Parker on a great upline cut. A layout bid is not going to be enough to keep it in hands. Great shoulder-to-shoulder pressure by Cattail and Arts to really slow that one down.
She's looking for the inside. We saw Credo drilling these in the warm-up. They're drilling those inside passes. She's looking for it, but trips a bit on the step.
McIntosh fakes the hammer, marked by Rutan. Puts a long one up for Campbell Nauman. He's got it. No, it's Sam Taylor and Arts. My mistake.
With the point. Such a great connection there. Just poised with the disc. Great flow. Credo cleaning up in the end zone. Obviously well drilled in the end zone. As I've said before, white line fever is a real thing. So common for teams at every single level to work it down to the end zone and just make those mistakes. That swing, such a good decision, but just
absolutely was. And I think as well, giving the width on that, like accepting the yardage loss on that throw to allow Parker to disengage from Taylor Arts, who was really, really shoulder to shoulder on that aggressive upline cut, a little bit shallow towards the desk. It got shut down. That opportunity to disengage and get a clean line towards that reset option. It's just unfortunate for the Old Boys. There was a little bit of miscommunication there. Credo are now up by 2.
And as I was saying, here's the great example of the space that Credo's creating in the end zone. Now, it's difficult to tell if they've talked through this or if they're making the call on the field for that isolation cut for Teo Lennartz, or if that's a cut that's initiated and everyone knows he's cutting there from the stack. Is this an end zone play, or is this just awareness and heads up in the end zone? Regardless, Credo is doing such a good job of converting those close points when they're right on the line into points. We're seeing minimal drops, and it's, again, evidence of a well-drilled team, which Credo definitely is.
Yeah, Nauman with a great pull to be fielded early by Ford. We've got Jordan Tan, despite a great attempt by Lee to shut that one down. Finds Rue Tan on the far sideline, marked by Nauman. Quick fake to engage Jordan Tan to move out of that space to allow a free reset to Cami Leong.
Eunice Eng streaking deep. Oh, what an option she is.
Michael Jessup now, marked by Lewis, puts a shot up. Jordan Tan running it down.
Takes
what a grab, a layout for the score.
I love that points.
Air Jordan is back.
Do you see that? Oh, the energy as they're streaking onto the field.
Welcome to the Space Jam, folks. Come on and slam. What a great finish to that point.
Textbook layout, just straightforward, arms outstretched, both hands. The disc is safe. One more time, let's see that as he chases it down. McGinnis recognizes the potential danger of going into that space. Props to the defense, props to McGinnis for recognizing it, pulling out, marking it as a point, as we see a flood of players streaming onto the field to celebrate.
And one other thing that's really impressive about that those might not know, it's the the danger of what we in Ultimate call a same third throw. If you split the field into 3 vertical channels, the last thing you want to do is to be throwing to a cut that is stretching along one of those channels from the same third throw. So for example, any line drive like that, you could see even though Jordan Tan was coming into that space as the throw was quite long, it was coming in over the top of his head, so his ability to adjust his speed to get a read on that disc and lay out for the grab is a true testament to just how well practiced and how experienced he is.
Slash cut right across.
Nice
good movement.
choppy shot across to McKenzie. Finds a hole filled by Clark. Hammond aggressive on defense. He's shading around. We're seeing some fakes and some signals, but it's going to be Bryn Douglas who gets it, marked by Holloway.
Great
Clark
coverage.
is calling for it. Hammond's too busy. It's not going to come away. Natalie Tiang finding Tony Clark for the score.
I think Credo got just as stoked on that layout points as Old Boys did. That was a powerful, commanding point they had. They just saw the open options. They moved the disc well. It was nice flowing options. I think it was a diversity of players on that line that managed to touch it before they got it into the end zone. Really a beautiful point.
Huge work there. Credo up by 2, a game to 15. So we'll take a break when the first team reaches 8 points. We still have a number of points to play before we hit that halftime break, though. Old Boys to come out on offense, wanting to bring it back to a 1-point game. They have the skill to do it.
They have the skill to do it, absolutely. Especially if we're going to see more of those epic plays. I'm still just riding that high of that beautiful layout. Jordan in the air. I wanted to comment, same third throw. Now, those are always difficult. However, knowing your receiver and what they're good at, for example, do they have hops? Are they good at skying other people? Or they have faster wheels? Are they faster than everyone else? And so you put it into space so they can run onto them. I think while it was the same third throw, dangerous to do, still really well executed in recognizing Jordan's strength and his ability to take off. Great to see that awareness and connection on Old Boys. Hoping to see more of that at this point as well.
Leung had forward available as an option, but Fernando smart enough to push into that upfield space. Pulls her out, finds Tan, far sideline, marked by Wong.
Side stack from Old Boys at the moment. Coming under.
Great undercut there.
Oh, what a good look.
Oh, just slightly underthrows Parker, maybe a little bit mistimed in terms of understanding her speed. Mance in hot pursuit. It's, again, a great option, the outside forehand, but a little more power on it, I think, might have carried it further into her space. That's what he would have wanted.
Great handler coverage there as Mance looks for the up line.
Putting the shot up. Who's underneath it?
I think...
Tony Clark comes down with it.
I was going to say a bit of a bailout option there, but not the case when you've got players like Clark to run it down.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a great air ball there. Tony Clark, I think he just timed it perfectly. You could see Rutan and Chi Wai Wong underneath that one as well, but Tony Clark came down with it and then made a great call there.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a timeout, just allowing the Credo side to park up, to reestablish themselves. Yes, Old Boys will get an opportunity to set their defense, but the important thing is that Credo can now make a plan to try and widen that gap. Anyway, we will be back very shortly after this timeout as this point continues.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
So the huddles are broken. The teams are going to take position. We're going to see Credo establish an offensive structure early.
As you were talking, just bringing us back into the timeout, and the reason Clark called it, likely that he called it, he just run down the field. It was a bailout option from Fernando, and what he's doing is normally in the 3 seconds that it would take the entire Credo team. Already, we're almost halfway into the game. It gives them time to stop, set the stall at 0, and then they can set up in their end zone downfield. No doubt they've talked about a quick conversion so they can turn this into a point.
Big fake over the top of Rutan's head. We see Mance on a great upline cut to pull the defender out of that space, giving Fernando an option on a reset, but miscommunication is going to be everything.
And that's difficult to see on offense when you've discussed the play and it doesn't work out like that. Great defense from Old Boys.
Oh, an interesting interception attempt by Fernando. Great bid by Logan, but it wasn't going to be enough. Possible dangerous play there, but no one called it. I think peeling into that space was maybe a questionable decision.
Fernando engaging dumps here. He's looking off a few options downfield, really looking for the give and goes. He's hungry for the disc every other pass. Now downfield is working it a bit more. Oh, finding Wong, it just pops over him, and great recovery by Jordan, seeing it safely into his hands.
Now, Jordan Tan with the disc now, number 77 for Old Boys, finds Rutan on a quick undercut. Jordan Tan in a great position as Fernando circles around. He puts the high shot up, looking for Rutan. Can he find him? Yes, he
can. What a catch. And that was a really great option, too. The stack was a little bit stagnant, a little bit messy. Jordan runs into the end zone. Point. It's the Jordan and Rutan show today, Blair.
Yeah, and I think technically we're going to call that a Jordan Tan bookends as well.
Yeah.
Slightly overthrown to Wong by far, and Tan was able to eat that up. Quickly, one shot up to Jordan Tan, and then gets it again for the score. Some great work there by Air Jordan.
So fast. The stack was looking just a little bit stagnant, a little bit clustered. It wasn't the cleanest space, and I honestly think that was some really great ultimate. It's always beautiful to see everyone on the team once again taking to the skies to tear that down. It's always great when everyone on the team is involved in the point together. But when, just the dominating presence of these two players on the field, supporting each other and just carrying through the rest of the point. I think that was really well executed by those two.
Just a great little outside in forehand, and didn't even really get the chance to fade back in. So Tan really hit that at its peak for the score. So the score is now going to be 4-5 in favor of Credo. Old Boys with an opportunity for a break. We see Blake Holloway with the disc. He's going to come through with a big pull.
Also,
it's going to be fading towards that near sideline.
With this 4-5 score, disc goes out of bounds, so it will be bricked, as Taylor Lartz indicates with his hand up. Just of note, again, with the 4-5 score, so great to see Old Boys clawing back. You know, Credo has had such a strong start to the game. Just as in the last game that we've seen, there's such a strong team. They come out firing, they bring the fire immediately, and that can be really dangerous if you let the opposition gain a few points, you know, just run away with it a little bit in the beginning. There's a zone we're seeing, a clam, as they're shutting down the side stack that Credo has set up.
Yeah,
however, the current lack of mark on the thrower, giving time. No mark across the field as well. Really interesting stack setup here.
Francis Kim not able to actually get the intercept, so it's McIntosh back through to Lewis. The mark is closing in now. What a great touch! Hammond, big fakes, getting Talonards to peel away.
And Credo responding similarly, they're just leaving the marks loose. They haven't set up their defense well yet. Just such a fast transition on offense.
Tierney to Kim on the far sideline, back to Hammond. To Shen. Holloway wide open for the score, tying the game at 5 apiece.
Goodness, Blair, what is this team? You know, they started off, we know Old Boys, they're athletic, they're drilled, they're dialed, but they're stepping up in a way that I haven't seen yet, and I'm on that train. It's so awesome to see.
And this is the thing, as fantastic a team as Credo is, we saw them go to a 4th place finish in last year's Division 1 championships. They were the top-rated Southern team in the entire tournament. But I've had the privilege of seeing how Old Boys have been training, working, practicing, scrimmaging, performing at tournaments. They're not the Old Boys that we saw last year. They're not the Old Boys we saw the year before. Everything is just tighter and dialed in and well drilled. I mean, we've got a couple of these players who represented New Zealand recently at the World Flying Disc Federation event, the Asia Oceania Ultimate Championships, where New Zealand came away with a gold. Not all of that talent is concentrated to 1 or 2 teams. We're seeing it spread across the country. We're seeing a lot of that in the Old Boy space as well. It's on full display here. Things are just tight and dialed in. It's really, really great to see. Yes, we've seen Old Boys hand over a couple of breaks to Credo, but they've managed to claw them back. It's anybody's game.
It's anybody's game. You know, so exciting. I think you're putting it really well with the dialed pressure. Also, shout out to fans. We're seeing a few people from other teams as well watching this quarterfinal, just seeing how the teams are doing. I wanted to just touch on Credo though. They're really good at coming back, and the score is tied right now. That said, Old Boys have had a run of a few points, so it's really up to Credo to respond to that. As I've mentioned, the analogy of driving a wrench into the well-oiled machine, the dialed plays that we're seeing Old Boys put out. So Credo, again, does really well, I think, with mental strength and resilience when they're down, and they're certainly not down right now. We'll see if they can do what it takes, execute as they need to push ahead to half, which will be at 8 points.
Strauch with the disc for the pull. And again, it's one of those things, we've got a really core defensive line here for the Old Boys. Hammond, who just had that great run through. And it's one of those things when you see a play like that and all of a sudden the momentum of the disc immediately slams the brakes on and swings back the other way from those run through interceptions. Really, really important. And so we're going to need to see how Taylor Nartz works with Besseling and McIntosh and the other players on the Credo line to really prevent that from happening, to work around the Old Boys defense. McIntosh with a push pass to the far sideline, manages to get the reset.
Interesting Old Boys defense, and I think it's a really good plan they're going to match right now. I really think it's strategic, it's intelligent, it makes sense. Starting off with Credo's side stack, they just completely shut that down with their clam. Play that for enough points to really mess things up, and then have converted very quickly, very well to match defense right now. Unfortunately, not fast enough as Credo shows what that looks like out on the field. Come out firing, high fives all around as they put another point on the board.
Great score there by Adele Besseling to take it up to 6-5, a tight game. And really, a lot of the games that we've seen on display here have been of this quality. Last time we saw Old Boys was against DMT. It was trade. I think there was never more than a 1 point difference in that game until the 21st point, and that was when Old Boys really started to walk away with it. Could it be a case of history repeating itself? Old Boys looking to trade, and then eventually building up that momentum and walking away with the game? Or is it the flip side? Is it the case of Credo getting fired up in the second half? We didn't really see a lot of that in their previous game against MDC, but it's something that they are known for, staging those aggressive comebacks, eating away at the leads established by another team.
I just want to shout out very briefly to Taylor Nartz, as we're seeing in the highlights there. His inside-out backhand, as well as a few times we've seen on the field, breaking the mark without stepping out. It's a step out, obviously it gives you space to step around the defender, to make that space, to step around the match, the mark. And he just with his wingspan manages to reach out, release it low enough so that he doesn't need to step out with his foot. To make that completed pass. We have Old Boys on offense and Credo coming down with a zone.
Very aggressive zone. We've got Mackenzie and Douglas initiating, but a hammer breaks over the top to Leong. The high bladey forehand manages to find Jamie Mead, who put on a great performance in their game yesterday. Alice Logan snatches from in front of Becky Farr. What a grab. Finds Rutan. There's Ford there as support right behind. Looks for him, finds him. Laser show straight through to Logan and snaps around to Mead for the score. The game is still tied.
Still tied, and we heard Clark shouting match, potentially a little bit too late as Credo players struggling to find who they're marking, and Old Boys keeps the pressure on despite the changing defense to just walk it up into the end zone. A great point. One more time, surrounded by Credo players, but still with that calm, collected, approach, just easily finding the open players and making those clean passes to make for a really an anticlimactic point, and that's just because it's so well executed, so simple, so easy.
Yeah, I think it was Tony Clark calling for that match switch there. He turned his attention away from Alice Logan, which is what allowed Ford to get that really quick throw through. I mean, Clark was in a good position to shut that one down, but making that call, and sometimes you just have to make those decisions, but that opened it up. for Logan to get a beautiful assist to the end zone, putting one on the board for Mead. We're going to see Jessup with the pull.
Also, just a shot to some Frisbee greats who've also represented New Zealand on the international stage, just in the stands as well. Great to see some legacy also here, continuing to support the youth as they're up and coming in the national championships.
Harhoff lets one go around to Clark, who's overthrown Grace Douglas.
Hard to do.
Yeah, at her foot speed, yeah, it really is. I think as that wind, we're seeing it pushing towards the bottom side of your screen when you're getting those wider shots, and just trying to get that good curve on it. I think the wind picked up the bottom face of the disc and really started to carry it a little bit.
It did. Again, the wind for the first time in this tournament, blowing towards the camera, towards us, and just pushing it a bit too far. Harhoff engaging her dump, really close mark from Clark, but with that face mark, it's really easy to throw those handler-initiated throws.
Holloway through to Hammond.
Movements. We've got a vertical stack downfield, and just some breaking ankle jukes, launching it deep.
A touchdown by Douglas. Oh,
what defense.
Rocket Lab's going to be on the phone to him after this game.
No doubt. Grace Douglas, a difficult player to miss in the deep space, quite similarly Bryn Douglas on defense down there. It's difficult to miss him even if it's an offensive throw.
Oh, Tierney making a great peel off to try and make a play, but there was definitely contact.
We can see conversation in the field. Let's get one more look at that epic play, ripping it deep, but Douglas getting a hand in the way.
So we're going to see... Oh, we're just waiting for the hand signals for some confirmation. It looks like the players involved weren't able to make a determination, so they've sought perspective from the other players, which is, again, a really important thing to do. Generally speaking, you're looking for, or I think ideally, perspective from your own teammates should only really be offered when it's going to not be to the detriment of the other team.
And I think the critical question here, there definitely was contact, but did the contact cause her to drop the disc? That is, did she have possession of the disc? Had she stopped rotation by the time she was hit? Or did that contact, prevent her from making the catch?
Yeah, so I believe, and I could be wrong, it's been known to happen, a relatively recent rule change talks about the disc as opposed to stopping rotation, but it's trapped between parts of the body, which is just an interesting and curious nomenclature as Douglas makes a great upline cut from a nice near side shot to Mance, who's going to get it again from Clark, working against Shen, Jordan Tan, and Jessup, those three front defenders for the Old Boys. Losing a couple of yards in the process, but it's McKenzie marked by Hammond.
Engaging
Tiang.
the dump. Tiang finds it. We're seeing a lot of fakes as these handlers are moving their defenders.
Oh,
what a bid, though.
Heartbreaking. It's one of those things. As that throw went to come up, you could see she checked over the right shoulder on instinct, possibly because she's so close to that near sideline. That tendency to look towards the inside of the field, I think, is a good. It's a good habit to have, but.
Looks like there's a call on the field. It's a great throw from Harhoff. Finding Hammond, but there may have been a pick.
Well,
unfortunate as Holloway was streaking deep. He was hungry for that deep look, but at the same time, the pick may have caused separation between those players, which is why he may have been so free.
Right, so we're calling a pick. It looks like, based on communication from the field, Bryn Douglas's ability to follow Blake Holloway was affected there. Hammond with a huge rip. It's high. It's fading hard to the right. Who's going to get there?
An interesting decision on that throw. I feel like a forehand would have been a lot stronger. The backhand just catching the wind and fading out. A forehand would have been a lot easier. You're talking about thirds, throwing down the line to run onto, but instead it popped up and came around. Credo has a chance on offense now.
Real aggressive there, but Douglas is going to be the one who comes down with it. Resets to Tiang, despite a great play there by Jessup. We're going to see another call.
It looks like maybe someone stepped on someone's foot.
Now, it's interesting. I'm wondering, well, you mentioned that a forehand might have been better on that side, maybe a little bit of outside edge to curve it back in towards the field. It's going to be Jordan Tan versus Tony Clark. Who's got the read? It's the ground. Great attempt by Tony Clark. He went up for it. Again, I think Jordan Tan went a little bit early. Defense doesn't always, or the offense doesn't always know how high the defense can jump. Might have just been enough to throw him off, but looks like there's been an injury called. So we're going to see Harthoff take a substitution for Ford.
Also, just brief commentary on Jordan Tan covering on defense there. He's made some great plays this game. Also had the most Callahans, scored the most Callahans in U20. Great to see heads-up awareness not only on offense, chasing things down, but also just that heads-up, heads-on-a-swivel defense. Yeah, a great accolade and fun fact to add to the Frisbee resume.
Just to highlight that as well, the implication is that he caught the Callahans as opposed to necessarily just throwing them, which is probably not an accolade one wants to celebrate. Tiang goes wide to find Douglas in the center field. A long shot eaten up by Ford. What a tactical substitution there to get Ford in that deep space. And a huge hand block by Tony Clark, who despite the hype of that play is immediately calling for calm. We're only about 10 meters in front of the end zone. What he wants to do is some patience.
I'm not feeling calm after that block. I'm not feeling calm. Let's see that one more time.
Oh, please, someone turn that into a GIF.
Not
Denied. Bryn Douglas has to go around Jessup in hot pursuit to try and shut down Tiang, who's looking for calls under the disc. And a round backhand goes over the top of Rory Hammond. A hard thing to do at the best of times. It's McKenzie. Through to Bryn Douglas, wants to close it off, nearly shorts the pass. Looks like some people are calling it in, some people calling it out.
Yeah, a bit of disagreement on the field. Play stop so they can discuss where he was when he caught the disc. Again, the lines in Ultimate Frisbee indicate out of bounds, so if he had caught it on the line.
Oh, I see the question as to whether or not he had contact with the disc before making that little hop across. But as it is a self-officiated sport, it's up to the players to make that determination.
Again, if he was on the line when he caught it, that would indicate that he's still out, that it was not a point, as lines are out of bounds. Up to the fans to decide, was his foot off the ground when he caught it? Or had he caught it and then jumped in?
And again, I think that's probably the right call to make regardless, as Bryn Douglas makes a great slash up line to close that one out. When in doubt, if the question is to whether or not it's a straddle or whether or not the goal was scored, there's no harm in sending it back. You retain possession. It's not as though there's a turnover associated with that. You might as well just bring it back to the lane and keep playing, and that's exactly what we saw Credo do with that little half pivot backhand through to Bryn Douglas for the score to put them up by 1 point. Half time is only 1 point away for Credo.
And you know what, Blair? They do say disc don't lie. Shout out to the fans again, the people in the bleachers bringing the energy, but the disc don't lie. It indicates that, you know, if it was meant to be a point, it's meant to be a point. Regardless, great execution a second time around in Credo, finding that open space. Clean point, and yeah, another one on the board. It's close. Credo, no doubt, looking to shut it down. Game to 8, see if they can take half.
Campbell Nauman is going to take the field again with the pull. Feels like we haven't seen him in a while. Maybe that last point was just a really long one. But that mighty left hand is about to come through with a great pull for Credo to establish their defensive presence. This is a huge moment for them if they can widen the score to a 2-point lead.
Rips a left-handed pull. A massive huck down the field.
Oh, it's going to float right around the brick mark. It's going to be picked up by Ford, supported by Leong and Jordan Tan.
They've set a zone. That's an intimidating wall to be looking around. Some big voices on the sideline, especially helpful in a zone when you have your back to a lot of the field.
Great pop through to Jessup to Ford again.
Meanwhile, Eunice Ng in that deep space, she's such a great receiver herself, really stretching it and open, waiting for them to see her to be able to pop it over that wall.
Some great zone unity from the three players in the head of the Credo Cup, but Forwards able to find that hole, manages to slip a disc across to Kami Leong, to Jordan Tan and Alice Logan for the score. It is still a tied game.
Wow. As I like to say, friends, fellow Frisbee players, please sit back in your seats, take a deep breath. This is Galaxy Point, the final point. Whoever takes this will take half, and in recognition of that, Old Boys are calling a timeout. Are they going to be throwing on a Galaxy line? The line to score to carry that team into half. What will they be discussing? We've got Old Boys coming out on defense. So no doubt discussing defensive strategy, a slightly longer road ahead of them, in that they need to first make the turn and then conserve the disc. We're seeing these passes again.
Those great give-goes that Old Boys have clearly been drilling. They're coming out clean again. To paraphrase the great Jack Black, bleachers, 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 bleachers. As Old Boys to come out on defense. We've got Blake Holloway with the disc, who looks to be initiating with the pull. We've got the entire Credo team here. As Kelsey and I are both known for saying the three lines that are going to win an ultimate game are the O-line, the D-line, and the sideline.
I also want to say, just between you guys online and us commentators, we were, don't tell anyone on the field, we were
the ones who are going to be watching this tonight.
People, please calm down. We were talking to people beforehand. We're curious. We're really excited about this matchup, and we're saying, who do you guys think are going to win? We were asking people on the sidelines, walking around, and consistently we're hearing differing opinions. About 50% said Credo, 50% said Old Boys, and I think that everyone was correct in this situation. This is the matchup that we were looking for, and really excited to see this point as Nauman rips it deep, looking for McIntosh.
It's fading hard. He's not going to be able to lay out to grab it. Looks like it was slightly outside the back of the end zone anyway.
The wind just pushed it too far. Even for a player with McIntosh's speed and his power, he couldn't catch up to reel it in.
I think Nauman knew as soon as he released the disc, he's in with that little head shake. It's not as precise as he would have liked it, and it's going to give the disc back to the Old Boys. We've got Lee and Tan. A vertical stack to create channels on the near and far sideline to allow those Old Boys players to exploit. We've got Tierney making that initiation cut, chipping through the bracket in a bid from Taylor Nartz, finds Jessup.
Taylor Nartz is hungry for that defensive play.
Oh, a huge bid, and
contact is called
gonna be
on the
a
play.
call. I mean, it looked like Blake Holloway had that pretty securely, and then when that play from McIntosh happened, see, we'll see, he has it in his hands, and then that contact has definitely slipped it out.
It's a closer look.
Campbell Nauman offering his perspective.
And also Taylor Nartz indicating great example of just showing what the hand communication is. She's indicating with hand on arm that it's a foul.
Okay, looks like it's going to be an accepted foul. Which again, one of those interesting things, even though we are here with the commentary booth and we do have our sneaky little replays, players who gain information from using those are only really allowed to offer that perspective in the event that it is not to the detriment of their opposition. But a pick has been called. Jordan Tan just asking Taylor Nartz, did that happen before the throw? I think the agreement was that it did, and so the disc is going to go back to Hammond.
Also, I just want to shout out on Hammond's step out there, stepping almost backwards to release horizontally. An incredible pivot.
He's patient. 3 touches, 4!
Oh.
Hammond tries to do it. I think that might be an injury. Yeah, you could see the pain in his face.
And you can't catch your own disc in Ultimate, but because it touched so many different hands, if he'd caught that, it would have been still a live disc. Really sad to see him heading off. Hopefully just a bit of a niggle that he's resting for this last point.
Yeah, that's a tough one. We're going to see Rutan come on to the field in place of Hammond. Looks like we're not going to see Credo take a substitution to match, as they are entitled to do. But it's going to be Credo's disc. We're just going to check in before players are allowed to move. Taylor Nance to pick up early. Tierney aggressive on the mark. It's not going to be quite enough because McIntosh puts one. It's edging early, but it's Nauman. He's not in bounds. Can they shut him down if Old Boys want to stay in it, or are they going to give up the half here?
Credo have a high percentage of converting that into a point, but it's a pick on the field.
It is yet another pick called. Now, we're seeing a call here that the disc was down. Unsure what the significance of that call is.
As I've mentioned, Credo has done such a good job, I've commented on this before, of when they're on the end zone line, converting that into points, being really calm and aware, smart about the throws they're making. So curious about what the result will be here. If that disc is down, if the pick was called, how that throw impacts the play and its results. And also it's expected in high intensity points like this one, the Galaxy points, we do tend to see more conversation, higher emotions on the field. So props for both teams for making time to communicate through what's happening.
And there it is, McIntosh to take half for Credo. Again, not to be given half, to take half. What a great run there to make it 8-7 in favor of Credo, the locals, the hometown heroes of Old Boys from Auckland. So we will be back after a short break as these teams, 8-7, only 1 point in it. These teams are going to come back and see what the second half of this game unfolds. In the first of our streamed quarterfinal matches for the 2023 Division 1 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships. As always, my name is Blair Monroe.
I'm still Kelsey Bielik.
And we will be back with you very soon. We are back for the second half of this exciting match in slightly less than sunny Ōtautahi Christchurch, as the locals, the hometown heroes, Credo, currently 1 up over the Old Boys Sports Club from Auckland. We are 57 minutes into our 90-minute game, or race to 15. So we've just had our halftime break as Credo managed to slip away and put one on the board to take them to halftime. My name, as always, is Blair Munro.
I'm still Kelsey Bielik.
And I could not be happier to be here right now. It's such an exciting opportunity, not just for these two teams as they fight for a place in the top 4 and a potential shot at a gold medal.
The stoke is indeed high, Blair. I'm really stoked. That was an intense last half. Thanks very much for the words. You can see the emotions are running high as Credo takes it out 8-7. Old Boys still so much in this game. It's anyone's game, as I've said before. But such a tight matchup. Some really great displays of athleticism. The disc goes up and Credo is on offense.
Absolutely. And so once again, it's going to be Mance Tiang and Douglas to come out for the Credo side. We're seeing some really good marking here from Old Boys to try and shut down those opportunities.
A junk on defense. A diving catch to keep the disc alive. Yeah, and then again, a junk defense. So person on the handlers, and then a slightly diamond formation, 3 across on the unders, and then 1 deep in the downfield. This is really effective at shutting down deep threats and deep options, which is Credo definitely has. They've shown depth in the way in which they score. So we'll see how effective this is. It is slowing things down a little bit.
And Clark has the disc. He fakes the hammer. Steph Shen takes a bite. Goes wide to Mance on the far sideline, circles back around for the reset. It doesn't come. It's going to be Douglas who fakes off Mance as Lee closes in, uses those long arms to shut down that around shot, goes back to center field. Mance to Douglas. Francis Kim shutting off that throwing lane, so it has to go back across the width of the field. Clark, Mance, there's the touch.
Strange, uncharacteristic bobble from Clark there. We heard the audible sigh of frustration as it just went through his fans. It can be really helpful to get your body behind discs like that. Clark just not used to making those little errors.
Ford letting rip, looking for Tierney.
Can he covers it on defense, giving him another chance on offense. Tiong with the disc, and the junk is already set.
Yeah, Mance pushing with Wong to that far sideline, comes back around to Clark. Douglas there as an option, wide open, but getting looked off.
There's some really great coverage on defense, just clogging the spaces. I think up to Credo right now to just figure out how to find those open spaces. It's not the most active junk. Regardless, the turnover gives Old Boys a chance. We've got Grayson Lee with the disc.
Threads through to Tierney. Shen covered too tight by Mance. Fabi Strauch not able to get open. It goes wide to Kim. Forward, open, great play by LeGrell to get a touch and the turn.
Some great defense there, slightly out of position, and she more than makes up for it with the touch. The hug goes up, looking for Clark.
Kim's underneath it. Clark comes down with it.
Sky Patrol.
Cheeky little backpack throws through to Douglas for the score.
That was a point of redemption if I ever saw it. I think Clark had a little bobble. We saw Douglas had a little bobble, and really great to see that finish of redemption for both those players with the assist, the sky ball, and then Douglas sneaking it in to clinch the point for the team.
And that's exactly what Credo needed to open that gap just a little bit. It's 9-7, 1 hour into the game.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely huge play. Great work by LeGrell. And then a great shot from Bryn Douglas. A lot of float. Kim had an opportunity. He had position.
And so good to see those 2 Credo players, those multiple options, and the 2 defenders. You see Old Boys bite on that one player, leaving Douglas wide open on the high side. Now, we recently found out that in addition to taking off, making these huge athletic plays, I've been talking a lot about the breaks, that Sam Taylor-Lenartz is also an Eagle Scout. So surely bringing some of that knowledge, athleticism, and pride to the field and team he's playing with. He's giving us a thumbs up on the sideline. Fun facts to know and tell about the team.
If nothing else, the motto, be prepared, certainly describes the work that Sam Taylor-Nartz and his wife, Kat Taylor-Nartz, have been putting in the gym in preparation to make sure that their bodies and the bodies of their teammates are well conditioned and ready for the hard-fought ultimate that is on display here as we have Eunice Ng with the disc on the sideline. Jordan Tan manages to get it despite the stretching fingers of Tony Clark. They're losing yards to Leong.
Pick called. This is something that old boys have been struggling with a little bit is just the cleanliness of the stack, the spacing and keeping things open for defense to be able to follow effectively.
And a violation play initiating before the disc was considered live.
I'm loving some of these matchups that I'm seeing on the field, and it's always consistent with games, especially those that are close. Seeing the skills of all the matchups of the players and how they are compare so well with each other. Always a treat to see such strong offense and defense
Ford
side by side.
Somehow managing to keep that off the turf. Great work. Logan's there, available as a reset, marked by LeGrell, threading through to Ng, right on the doorstep, puts a big shot up. Air Jordan manages to drop that back toe, but the question is whether or not it was going to be in or not.
Was it in? Let's take another look. Despite the double coverage, Ng puts it up.
It was very, very interesting. We're seeing a lot of those Credo players look to us here in the booth to see if it was in or out. The fact is, according to the rules, where footage like that is available, players are only able to offer a perspective if they've gained information from that, and it is to the detriment of their own team. If you ask me, it's going to be in. It looked really cool regardless. Rule of cool.
Tough to keep those opinions, I think, silent, as I was feeling very much the same. Good to see that out on the field. And also great coverage by Fernando. I wanted to talk about that. Despite the extra Credo players in that space, Fernando recognizing the danger there. Really great job attacking it and, towing it in. Great footwork. Display of agilities, no doubt. Having done agility squares to train for this finals.
So, Old Boys having managed to pull it back to a 1-point game. Now they have to come out on defense, generate a break and convert it, or generate a turn rather and convert it for a break. They want to keep in this game. They really, as we move into the later stages of the game, we can't afford to just let the opposition have points regardless of which side you're on. The wind picking up.
We're only a few points into the second half here, but regardless, we're seeing the exact same kind of tempo, that the trading that we saw in the first half between both teams. That's really exciting. And many other games, for example, in the previous Credo game, the opposition really pulled away. And here, it's showing the depth, how well these teams are matched, not just with their physical skill, but also with the mental endurance, rising to meet the challenge and maintaining that pressure.
Absolutely, and we're going to see it kick off one more time. Sam Taylor-Nartz to Lewis to McIntosh, quickly back through to Kat Taylor-Nartz. Tierney aggressive on the mark. We're seeing that same zone look. Tierney, Jessup, and Lee, but a shot goes wide. Not going to be able to be chased down by Fabi Strauch. It's McGuinness back to Lewis. McIntosh on the near side, calling for a big reset. Comes wide. Chips it through to Kat Taylor-Nartz, but that line shut down quickly by Hammond and Ford, having to target the other side of the field.
Great catch, looking for the give and go. Now McKean to get that little pop pass, clears out. Taylor-Nartz knocking on the door. There's an inside, finding Nauman. Another point on the board for Credo.
Great work there by the side from Canterbury.
These teams are like siblings, Blair. Tit for tat, 1 for 1.
Yeah, and then it's really what it's going to come down to is which is the first one to call for mum.
So we'll see that one more time. The patience, Taylor-Nartz finding the right option, seeing that inside, and he's a tough player to mark. He's got as example right there. He throws the inside out. He has those throws, but if you if
like a
you
cross
take away
between a plie and a squat.
If you take away the inside outs, he has the arounds as well. Either way, the disc was going to get to Nauman in his safe hands.
And so it's just offensive trades at the moment, so it'll be good to see if Old Boys are able to answer with one of their own to keep them in the game, or if those little errors are going to start creeping in the later stages of the match, and whether or not Credo can capitalize on them.
Nauman launching it deep.
Pull. Is it going to touch? It's going to touch back in bounds. Forward early. Leong with the disc now. Bessling slowly looking to close that down.
Looks
We've
like
got Lee applying aggressive pressure on the reset.
A pull play that Old Boys have called here that slightly shut down either that or a split sack. We see the 2 players on the side and the 3 on the left. Indicative of a play that they've called right off the bat to try to score a quick point. Hard defense by Credo slowed things down. Nonetheless, a launch deep, trying to find
It's Rutan.
Pulled down by Tan.
Think he may have stolen that one from Unising, but she doesn't seem too upset about it. Once we had Jessup on that explosive undercut, quick reset up line to Alice Logan, who just immediately saw what was happening, that split-second decision, and just let rip on an absolute corker of a throw. We'll see it here again. The up line looking back into this immediately sends it long.
One of those throws, again, it's made to the open side, but it fades to the break, making it difficult to defend. A really well-placed throw. Beautiful under throw, launching it deep.
Huge put. Tan goes up over Nauman.
How good!
1 point game once again. Are we going to be able to see a break here? The first break of the half. Whew.
So interesting, considering what's been successful defensively. How can these teams, the offensive lines are so strong. Once a team is on offense, and so far this half, they've scored the point. So what can the defensive lines do to shut them down? We've got Old Boys coming down on defense. Match has worked quite well. Will they come down? They're running a junk. Again, wary of those deep options. Junks can be really good at just messing things up, making some congestion downfield.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why a junk defense works so effectively is because each player has to recognize what their role on defense is within the context of the team. If you know you're playing in a zone, you know what you have to do to distract a zone. If you know you're playing match defense, you know that you've got to find those individual steps and actions to take. If the handlers think they're playing match defense and the downfielders think they're playing zone, it can often throw off a lot of that communications and let those errors slip in. I just wish we had a better name for it than junk. And so Douglas has the disc now, working with Mance and McKenzie. Works back, wide open, Tony Clark near sideline.
So
gets faked off on the reset.
Yeah, things have slowed down a little bit, indicating that the junk is successful in just challenging the handlers to find the open passes downfield. Just trying to figure out how to get open, how to get away from those defenders in the white jerseys. Good patience from Credo, though, as they're figuring things out. They're just finding what they need to do to get open.
Would be nice to see them pass to one of their open ladies, though. We had Anne-Marie Legrell, particularly on a great open cut on the near sideline, looked off in favor of those reset options.
Mance with the disc fakes Clark, finds Douglas to an open Clark, really spreading the width of the field now. Back to Mance.
And that is a Mance score. It's going to be 11, Old Boys 9. Old Boys to have an opportunity for a hold of their own, bringing it back to within 1. We will see.
A tricky situation when I feel like the junk just got a little flat, maybe a little complacent towards the end. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When you're marking space, it can be a really effective way of shutting people down, especially in the end zone. But maybe a call to match defense a little earlier could have prevented, just raised awareness into those 4 corners, the dangerous players, so you're connected with a person who could be scoring the points. If your offensive player could score the point, you're a lot more aware. You focused on them to try to prevent it from happening.
Little bit low on that throw, but Clark was able to take a knee to get it. And Mance just a gentle stride over the line for that first contact point after securing control of the disc was inbounds.
Reaching with the offside hand, also a great offside hand catch, one-handed in the end zone to score the point.
With all the grace of a startled gazelle, perhaps even more graceful than that.
Knowing Mance, I think she would appreciate that, definitely, that celebration. We've got Tiang with the disc, ripping it downfield.
Just the amount of rotation she generates in her run-up is really good to watch. Disc is going to cut down early. We're going to see Ford and Leong again.
A deep option right away. Under options, really great cutting right now from Old Boys. They're creating a lot of space. Fightings get open against some hard Credo defense.
Yeah, the defense we're seeing from those Credo ladies marking those handlers is amazing. Parker not gonna be able to get to it.
We see Tiang, she's hands down, she's pushing the area down, indicating her team should mellow down. Simmer that boil, simmer the energy, simmer the tension. They have an opportunity to break right now, which would be the first break of the half, and really be important to kind of secure their lead, to continue that going. Can they get it?
Far with a big fake, but Leong doesn't bite. It's Tiang there, Fernando now. Jamie Mead with the great deceleration to slow down.
A great open side cut, faking the pop pass.
Ford super aggressive to shut down that lane.
There's so many defenders in that space, launching it upfield. A high side throw that curves around and ends up in the hands of Tan.
Great work by Rutan to read that one. Parker has the disc now. Logan manages to come down with it despite Tiang being right on his shoulder.
Great energy, great bid there to give Credo another chance. Fernando with the disc.
It was a violation. The disc has been checked in. I think the question is to
It looks like there was confusion about the check-in of the disc, an old rule, where it was helpful to tap the disc for defense to indicate that the stall had started.
Yeah, and so it looks like they're going to call that as a contact on the disc, which would be a marking infraction. But after a stoppage, it has been checked in, although another violation.
Just some conversation, communication on the field. Great job for both parties. Just talking through to figure out where the stall should start when it's live. Big swing to Tiang. Another violation
again.
on the field.
It's one of those things where calls, I think there's provision in the current WIFDIF rules that calls should really only be made when there's potential to have a significant impact on the play. I don't know whether or not checking a disc in before initiating play is really a valid call to make, regardless of whether or not it's in the letter of the law. I think the important thing is to see whether or not the spirit of the rule is being upheld. As we swing to the far sideline to find Mance, Tiang, back to Fernando on a great roll and tumble.
Swinging it, can Tiang get there?
Yes, she can.
I'm excited to see one of those as well. There's a few bingo slots that I have mentally in my mind. One is Tiang slicey backhands. One is Fernando taking off. Can't make it in time. He did do the action roll before, though, for style points. A great layout from Tiang to keep the disc alive, though. Again, maybe that energy that she was trying to mellow down a little bit, just carrying the team a little too fast, a little too furious there.
And it looks like we're going to see an injury called by Fernando to take a substitution for Bryn Douglas. 2 rolls back-to-back. It's a hard impact on the best of days, let alone 3 games into a 2-day tournament.
Checking in, looks like Jordan Tan also coming on the field for a substitution.
For Jamie Mead.
Also, big shout out to Jamie Mead. We saw him in the first game. He's really making a mark for himself here on the national stage. 17-year-old picked up by the team. I think it's his first mixed national championships.
I believe it's his first season playing outdoors, let alone his first mixed championships. Amazing to see as well. A nice Pakuranga College highlight. Great play by Douglas, but Ing's going to come down with it to find Logan on that upline cut. Puts one up for Rutan one more time. A big shot looking for Ford over McKenzie. Yes, he can.
Wow.
Old boys have done
it. They just stepped it up there. They just took these violations. There's a bit of a mellow lull, and they just stepped up the energy. Just showed what they need to do, and there's drills for that. There's the open side drills where you fake, you cut, you fake, you cut. The continuations, timing your cuts off other people, and wow, that's executed in play. That's perfectly exactly how they train on the field. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as the disc is caught, another continuation throw, an open cutter downfield, open side, open side, open side, making the easiest throws for the handlers. I mean, they can be pulling more out of the back pocket if they need to, but wow, just making life easy for each other to score the point.
Absolutely, Kelsey. Goodness gracious, what a way to finish that. Great position there by Ford and a huge chase down to come down over from McKenzie. Oh, Tiang's layout, picture perfect. Someone needs to put that on the cover of a magazine. And so we're going to see Old Boys coming out on defense. Now, again, this entire half has been trade. It's only offensive holds. Now, that was not a perfect offensive point. There were a few turns, but Old Boys were able to recover it. The question is, can they play defense the way they just played offense on that point? Are they able to generate the turn? If they can't, Credo are going to win by default as we trade and trade and trade.
Well summarized, Blair. Who can make the break? Who can take the break that they need to win the game here?
Lewis going around to McIntosh. Jordan Tan closing in. Grayson Lee right on the shoulder as a double helix. Something came up and somehow down into the hands of Jack Lewis.
I gotta say, Blair, that was Ghost level Peppers. Levels spicy. That was a spicy hammer. It came out with a wobble. There was a lot of coverage in that deep space, but how can you hate on a throw like that or the decision when it was so cleanly caught? What a great point for Credo.
Do they teach that in the Boy Scouts, Kelsey, do you think? Where do I learn how to do one of those?
Make a hot sauce as spicy as that. Tail and Arts with the cross-field hammer upwind, really.
Yeah, especially considering that, just a reminder for those at home, the wind is blowing towards the bottom-hand side of your screen. Was that even a hammer, or was that just an almost vertical blade that double turned over? Wow, how did Jack Lewis come down with that? How would anybody come down with that? It was great to see a display of spirit there, though, that as soon as he was on the ground with the disc, all the hands shot up in the air, signifying from both sides that was a valid point. Credo up by 1.
It's funny to see Taylor Leonard's running off the field. He's got a smile on his face, a bit of acknowledgement at how potentially silly, at the same time powerful that throw was.
Yeah, I would take a substitution after a throw like that. The last thing I would want would be for Takama to catch up with me. It's Jordan Tan with the disc against a Credo zone. Perhaps maybe a tighter match defense. Really? It's Ford and a touch by Lee. It's going to generate the turn. This is what Credo needed.
He's been hungry for defensive plays. He's been making them, just nomming up the disc this game.
Wanted the bookends, not going to get it. McIntosh not going to be able to close that one out either. Old Boys are going to have another chance. Now here's the question, are they going to play tight or are they going to just look for a big, long option? I think Ford was looking for a signal. He wanted someone to streak deep. We're seeing Alice Logan go wide, going deep. Alice Logan, one-handed, secures it with 2. Tan applying the burners. Double Tan, double burner, he gets it! Air Jordan is back in the game. What can I say but... Bruh. What a grab.
Was the break? Was that a break?
That was not a break. That was a hold. That is going to bring us back to a 1-point game.
You know what? The show that these teams are putting on for us right now, whether it's an insane hammer from Taylor Lenartz or the wings that Jordan Tan is sprouting out of his back, some really incredible plays on display for us.
Impending sponsorship from Red Bull, no doubt. Jessa putting it up for Logan. great chase down, a great attempt by Belle Fraser as well. You could see Rutan with a great infield turn as well.
And Logan's ability not only to be sending those deep pucks, but to be reeling them in, you know. I think it's a great question. Answer yourself. Do you prefer to be the one launching that disc deep or the one like tearing it out of the sky? And she's showing that she can do both right here.
¿Por qué no los dos?
¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both?
And that's the one. I think, yeah, Lee just focused really aggressively, not on the disc so much as on the player. And Alice Logan recognized that, put something up. Are they going to be able to break one here? Jessup with a great pull towards near sideline, but it's going to touch down out of bounds.
And Tiang is calling the brick. As it looks like Old Boys are coming down in a match defense marking person. We'll see. It looks like the mark will be downwind, trapping on the close sideline. It hasn't seemed to be an issue for Credo thus far, as they have had some incredible break, both inside out and around throws. And okie doke, no step backhand release from Tiang in the safe hands of Mance.
On the high side now, but being forced to use the low side as Bryn Douglas, marked by Holloway, slowly loses yards in terms of where the wind is, with McKenzie now marked aggressively by Ford.
Great coverage, great handler coverage.
Mance still able to get it down. Works again, far side. Bryn Douglas putting the shot up. It's angling over early. Can Clark get it? No, it's Hammond. Wide shot, finds Ford just above the turf to Tierney near sideline, marked by Legrell.
Tierney's had some wheels on her this game, showing ability, not just running, but also commanding the disc.
Ford can't get to it.
Misfire. Giving Credo another chance. Interesting. I feel like in these few points, possession is everything for the team. These baubles, these misfires are what are going to make or lose the game. They're what the teams will be revisiting. You know, how exactly did we turn that over? What happened? Was it us or was it the other team? And those who can make the fewest errors are the ones who are going to walk away with the victory. Centering to Tiang.
Marked by Jessup now. Close enough to the doorstep. Only about 10 meters needed to gain. And if they want to score this one here.
Great person coverage inside out to the high side of the field.
Puts a shot up. Wide open,
So
finds
open.
Clark, but it looks like a travel is going to be called.
And they'll be starting again. Clark's still a wide open target.
Hammond looks like he's baiting that shot. He's keeping one eye on where Clark is. He's moving closer now.
Looks like there's a pick called.
And another pick.
Clark's still hanging out in the deep space, very back of the zone. A little bit of a snake in the grass, but as soon as they lose sight of him, he is definitely a threat to another one of those bigger rounds. Another okie doke and a layup.
Huge touch there by Steph Shan.
What a great play. That was absolutely critical for Old Boys.
Speaking of great
up the team.
nutritionists, huge thanks to one of our sponsors, Pure Sports Nutrition, who, much like Steph Shan, keeping everything going. But it's going to be McKenzie off the turn.
I'm going to need to take some time after this game, Blair. There's so much happening. There's so much happening. There's hand blocks, layout Ds, that quick point. I wasn't even ready for that point to be finished. I feel like I'm still catching up on all the amazing plays that just happened. Insane shows of athleticism from both sides. Credo walks away with it,
Now,
keeping that offensive point alive, trading 1-for-1.
So I think still no breaks in the second half, which means pretty much every single one of those pulls is coming from the right-hand side of your screen at the moment.
You're absolutely right. Also, it means that the points are getting closer. The clock is ticking down as well. It's a game to 15. So it's really putting more pressure. Each point inching closer to 15 is getting more and more pressure for the Old Boys as they're carrying it on their shoulders to make the difference, really make a huge defensive play and get that break that they dearly need. Getting more dear as time ticks on.
And so we might, here's This, I think, is the most important point of the game. We're so close to a finish that any margin here is going to be almost impossible to claw back. Are Old Boys going to be able to hold this point? Or are Credo going to be able to get the break that they need in order to walk away with the win?
A massive pull by Tiang, and it floats out of bounds. The wind just touches it and carries it gently a little farther, I think, to the sideline than she wanted it to. It will be bricked in the middle field of the field. Jordan Tan in possession.
Marked up by the ever-impressive Tony Clark.
And a really strong, well-spaced horizontal stack. Credo are coming down with a match defense as well.
Jordan Tan putting the shot up for Logan. One more time. She's got it. Eunice Ng trying to snake around. We've got Fernando who's peeled up. It's Cami Leong. Pops it up. Huge touch by Clark.
The emotions are running hot. I need to sit back in my seat. Just calm down a little bit. What a catch. Alice Logan is displaying strengths all across the field. And she just tore that down under pressure, too. There were so many additional players in that space. And the positioning, the height, just such a great job and calm bringing it down. And also great defensive play by Clark, really covering up, making up the miles for his team to get a hand on it and just knock it out of bounds.
And speaking of miles, especially from a frequent flyer like Tony Clark, if this were an airplane, believe me, the pilot would have their seatbelt sign on and the oxygen mask would be dropping on the ceiling. I don't know about you, but being on the sideline, it's hard to breathe. The bullet goes straight to the hands of Grace Douglas, and it's going to pop out and out of bounds. So Old Boys have yet another opportunity. It's Jordan Tan to pick up and initiate.
I feel like as we tick closer before the cap goes on, timeouts would be
miscommunication there, but Eunice Ng tried to cover it.
I get nervous about situations like this. Tensions are running high. Oxygen masks, I'm sure, would be welcome to players on the field or here in the commentating booth as well. But when the energy is so high, it can make it difficult to make those measured solutions to the challenge of how we get the disc into the end zone. Timeout could provide a good space for the team to talk through that, consider together, take a sip of water, let things settle, and just play the clinical, drilled Frisbee that they know how to do.
Nearly getting a bite from Jessup, but it's going to be Taylor Nartz who underthrows. The opportunities here. Jessup with the disc right on the doorstep. Can he close it out? Jordan Tan, yes he can.
What a point.
Yeah, Jordan with a big dunk to bring it back to 1 point.
Again, that's an offensive point. The offensive line's incredibly strong in this game. Which defensive line can make the turn and then make the points? Some incredible plays. I think that the tensions are running so high and incredible plays from both sides. I would also like to see the offense on both sides conserving the disc a little bit more. We're seeing a lot of turnovers, which I think is uncharacteristic of a game this close, where they're just trading points. Every possession gives the other team an opportunity to score, and it's surprising to see so many turnovers, potentially the wins at play here, potentially tensions, mental resilience, or just fatigue as well.
And after what feels like the 8th or 9th score by Jordan Tan in this game alone, teams are going to call a timeout and use this as an opportunity to do exactly as you say, Kelsey, figure out what the defensive line needs to do when they come on, who's going to be the players that come along to try and generate the break that's just going to open this game right up. But we will be back with you very shortly.
Nova Scotia Electric, become a member.
Kia ora koutou, welcome back after that brief timeout. Always great, I feel like, with the commentator's curse. So commonly am I making a call and see the opposite thing happen. Great to see that at least leadership on both teams are on the same page as me, just regarding a timeout, discussing what needs to happen, how the defensive line, in this case it's going to be Old Boys, need to make this break. Need to start adding more points to the board and making those breaks in order to take the game.
But every single point must be played one at a time. And so the old boys going to come out here on defense. It's Blake Holloway again with the disc. We've just hit our soft cap, I believe. So we'll play out this point, and then it's going to be 1 to the highest score. So it's either a game to 14 or 15. This point is going to determine what that is. A great pull. It's going to touch down in bounds, no doubt.
You know, Blair, it's always games like this that get me so stoked. The ones that are so fiercely fought, so close. At the same time, it's always sad when they come to a conclusion, just given how well matched the two teams are. There must be one that comes out on top, though. Who will that team be?
I mean, exactly. Only time will tell. It's just like Highlander. There can be only one, and it does fill you with a sense of sorrow to see such great ultimate have to come to an end, even though we'll see one of these teams again, almost guaranteed. Taylor Nartz finding McIntosh on a great undercut. Think Jordan Tanmeyer got a little bit of a wobble on that. It's Campbell Nauman with a big hammer. Can somebody else get underneath it? No, they can't.
Wow.
It's Jack Lewis.
Interesting also with the lefty hammer coming out, it does float a little bit different. We saw Sam Taylor Nartz putting up from almost exactly the same position, put a cross-field hammer, and because that was righty, it came out curving to the right side. Now you'll see when Campbell puts it up as a lefty, it snakes across the field, snaking more towards the left as opposed to Taylor Nartz, which snakes more towards the right. And that left is beautiful. It's exactly what they need to keep it floating into the break space and away from the defender. Really a high-stakes situation and a really well-executed throw. To cinch the point, the offensive point for Credo, once again, trading.
Beautiful point there. So it looks like it's going to be a game to 15, which it would have been anyway. Credo 1 away from victory.
No
old
room,
boys.
No room for error for old boys exactly right now. And we are, if it's consistent with the rest of the whole game, you know, we are expecting them to score this point, but it's really up to them to follow that. This has to be more than 1 point. This has to be a train riding through to 15. Can you count to 3? They're coming down in a split stack. Again, potentially indicative of a pull play. Smart call.
Threading through. Once again, Alice Logan just doing the most. We're seeing some very busy hands from Belle Fraser. Cammy Leong's going to get a touch. No, it's Bessling. Bessling might have just secured the game for Credo with that play. It's Jack Lewis who just scored the most recent one. Taylor Nartz, and we're definitely seeing a pick.
Energy high. It looks like it was called on Fraser cutting from the back of the stack. Interesting place to be drawing a pick. Usually from the back you have most visibility in space.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, players cleaning it up downfield. Also, when a pick is called, you are allowed to get in position if you were to initiate contact to get out of position. The swing goes to Taylor Nartz.
Yeah, McIntosh cutting back around the front, chipping through to Jack Lewis. One more, it goes too high. It's Annabelle Fraser anyway.
With the point, and that's game.
Oh, that is game. My heart is in my throat. My heart is in my feet. The excitement for Credo, the sorrow for the old boys.
What a privilege to watch that game. Also, that play, as you called it, that defensive play that really was what Credo needed to score that last point. Bessling with that massive D. And here we see the swing again to Taylor Nartz.
One more to McIntosh on a great cross cut around the front. Back to Lewis. Some great strings of passes. That last throw was definitely not intended for Fraser, but she's the one who comes down with it. That's textbook mixed ultimate. Let the ladies do the winning.
And it's wild to see in games like this, you know, in the first half, I don't remember which break it was, but there was 1 point when Credo took it, and that's all that was needed to win the game, aside from obviously what we saw just here, where they just concluded it and wrapped it up, really just putting the cherry on top. But it just goes to show how much power and influence that first half can have. Even the first few points, if a team comes out firing and you're still on your back foot, that can really, you know, determine the ending at the end of the game.
Absolutely. Wow, what a finish. For the first time in almost 2 days, I have no words. My name is Blair Munro.
I'm Kelsey Bielik.
Thank you so much for joining us for ULTI.TV's coverage of the 2023 Division 1 Mixed Ultimate Championships in Ōtautahi, Christchurch at Bob Deans Field. If you want to help us bring more of the very best Ultimate in the world to your screens, head on over to patreon.com/ULTI.TV and give us your spare change. We will be back with another one of our quarterfinal matches to your screens very, very soon. Thank you for watching.
ULTI.TV.